A star is born, literally and figuratively. This is Samantha Starr, that's with two R's, by the way, of the NWA. A lot of history with this star, third generation type, especially in the NWA. Thank you, Samantha. Hey, tell us about your pro wrestling family.
Oh goodness, where to begin? So, not only am I a third generation wrestler, but I'm third generation on both sides of my family. So, to start with, my mom, the legendary, the perfect 10 baby doll. My dad, Sam Houston. My aunt is WWF Women's World Champion Rockin Robin. My uncle, WWE Hall of Famer Jake the Snake Roberts. And if that's not enough, 3 out of 4 of my grandparents also wrestled. I have Nick Wildman Roberts, Lorraine Johnson, and Grizzly Smith of the Wild Kentuckians.
Gee, that's how far I go back, because I remember actually the Wild Kentuckians. That was this legendary tag team back in the day, even back, I want to say Championship Wrestling from Florida, which was many years ago with Eddie Graham. So there's a lot of Florida history too with all your family. I'm just curious, when did pro wrestling start for you? When did you start to get into it and watch it, and then later on want to become a pro wrestler?
So wrestling's always been a part of who I am. From a very young age, I remember going to the arena in Lubbock, Texas, and getting to hang out backstage with Booker T and Sting and the Dudley Boys, and getting to bump around in the ring when I was little, like 5 or 6 maybe. And I remember looking at the mat, and there were blood stains on the mat, and I was like, "That's real blood!" And just being completely freaked out by it. But even after that, I kept up with wrestling, to the point where I got in trouble a few times growing up for quoting things like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and DX. But I didn't start my own wrestling career until I was 14 years old. At 14 years old, I was at a wrestling show in Columbia, South Carolina. I was setting up chairs, I was running gimmick tables, I was doing all the behind the scenes stuff. And my mom looked at me and she said, "You want to try it?" I said, Are you serious? I can get in the ring? And she was like, "Yeah, go ahead." So I actually got into the ring when I was 14 years old and took my very first bump for CWA Wrestling in Columbia, South Carolina.
Do you remember who you wrestled that night?
I didn't wrestle that night. I was just learning how to bump. But Timber, the Insane Lumberjack, was their heavyweight champion. And he's the one that was teaching me how to tuck my chin and how to hit the mat. And the next morning, I was so sore. I could not lift my head up off the pillow. And I was like, I felt like I'd been in a car accident. And my mom was like, "Is this something you want to do?" I said, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And from there, I continued on. I learned how to be a valet or a manager like my mom was. And I would work the outside of the ring while I was still in training. And then whenever I hit about 18 years old, that's when I started wrestling on the independent circuit every weekend.
And from that, who then trained you after that? Or I should say during that time, from when you first took a bump till actually getting your first wrestling match?
So I'm one of the few that decided to learn a little bit from everyone. I didn't go to like your traditional wrestling school where they teach you how to bump, then they teach you how to arm drag, then they teach you how to. I would get into the ring with anyone and everyone that would give me the time of day. So I trained with Damian Wayne, Scrapyard Dog, Mark James, my dad even. My dad's 6'4". I'm 5'6.5", and I'm in the ring body slamming my dad, who, granted, isn't the youngest one on the block, you know what I mean? So me at 17 years old, yeah, body slam me, but you're my dad. Like, okay, sure. And I even trained 30 days European style with a guy named Steve Allison from Switzerland. He flew over to the US to do some wrestling, and I trained with him week after week just to learn the different styles from around the world.
What was that like? Because we see wrestlers like a William Regal and just so many that have come through from the European style. What was it like, even for that short period of time, to work that style and train in that?
It was Working European style was very different from working traditional, like mid-Atlantic style, because mid-Atlantic, you tell the story, it's old school, it's slower. European style was a lot of rolls. It was a lot of flips. I remember them telling me to roll and roll and roll. and rolling so many times I got motion sick and had to go out into the alleyway to throw up during the middle of training. And then from there, learning how to uppercut. Steve Allison was really known for, he would do a roll into an uppercut. So I was learning how to do the roll, not get dizzy, and then hit a really good uppercut. Yeah. I remember getting hit by that once.
It's
Throwing
so
down.
it's interesting because so many different styles. And when I remember Baby Doll being the classy valet, and then I remember Sam Houston, and his was a little more fast, his wrestling style, fast paced, young, skinny wrestler in the beginnings and all, drop kick, excellent drop kick. And then obviously Jake the Snake Roberts was just so methodical and just got you right in there. And the promos, even today with AEW, the promos, it's just like, it's almost, he doesn't even prepare per se. He just goes in there, knows what he's going to say, and just does it. I'm curious, what advice, if any, that Jake has given you through the years?
I was taught that if you have a message and you can capture an audience without yelling, that's when it becomes believable. You don't have to go out there, yell and scream, throw your arms up. If you can deliver your message without screaming, that's good storytelling. So that was very important because you don't see Jake screaming. You don't see Jake throwing a fit and I'm going to go beat this guy up. It was almost unhinged. It was the mental attack before the physical attack. It's genius. He is an absolute genius when it comes to psychology.
I just think it's a credit. Anybody that's in AEW right now, you've got the chance to go pick the brain, any of the talent there with Jake the Snake Roberts, some of the others as well, but just for promos in itself and just the mental aspect, the methodology behind it, and just how it is. It's just, like you said, he never had to yell. His was always more just but the way he spoke, the delivery, and what he was saying, and it just flowed and just brought everybody in. It was just really great. And then obviously he had the DDT, which everybody loved.
Yeah.
Back then, not everybody was doing a DDT. Jake did the DDT. Now
Jake invented the DDT.
That's awesome. See, that's so awesome, man. Just
He invented it. He named it. Everything. That move, he created that move.
Samantha, have you done the DDT?
The DDT is my finisher. And to this date, even though I've been wrestling for forever now, what it seems, no one has ever kicked out of my DDT. Ever.
Yes. And hopefully that will continue, because I want to bring up NWA Power Live. This is the first time NWA Power Live will be live. And it's going to be Tuesday, January 31st. And from the information I received, you're part of Team Tyrus, and you're going against Team Rockin Roll. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about this opportunity for you and having live TV. And I'm curious, is this the first time that you'll be on live TV wrestling?
I was a part of the pay-per-view, which went live back in August at the Chase, Wrestling at the Chase. It was a 74th anniversary show. So I was on that back in August, but it was a gauntlet style. It was the Burke Invitational. It wasn't a singles match. It wasn't a tag match. It was, hey, you're in there, you're starting out, and guess what? There's going to be 10 other women coming in here to beat your, you know what I mean? But this is such a monumental moment for NWA. This is the first NWA Power live show on January 31st in Knoxville, Tennessee. And since I've come to the NWA, I wrestled against the most prestigious women in wrestling. You have the true talent like Kamille, who's 600 days as NWA Women's World Champion as of today. And you have Taya Valkyrie, you have Genocide, you have La Rosa Negra, you have all these amazing female athletes. So it's definitely made me step my game up 100%. On the independent circuit, traveling up and down North Carolina, I'm wrestling newbies. Okay. Easy breezy. These women, they're a different kind. They're amazing.
You speak of the talent in the NWA, the women and the men. It is really a very solid lineup. And the tradition of the NWA, and going back a little bit of old school, the presentation is like something that we saw Now what we're seeing something different from today, which is good too. I'm just thought your thoughts. You mentioned the talent, but what are your thoughts of being part of the NWA and even the history that your families have with the NWA?
Being a part of the NWA is such a special feeling for me because wrestling isn't just some hobby that I picked up whenever I was in high school or college or whatever. It's truly a part of who I am, and it truly connects me to my family. And the NWA being 74 going on 75 years of prestigious wrestling is incredible. To me, I hope to be in the history books as an NWA champion. Like that's such a huge goal for me because of how much those titles mean, because it's so well respected. It's so different because they have the foundation of being tried and true to the sport. So it's an amazing opportunity.
Now, you mentioned growing up, and I'm just curious because in doing some research, I didn't find much information about your background growing up. I know your wrestling background. I'm curious, did you grow up in Lubbock, Texas? Did you grow up elsewhere?
I grew up in several different places. I was born in Lubbock, Texas. I lived there until I was about 10 or 11 years old. From there, we relocated to Joplin, Missouri. We were there for about 4.5 years. And after that, we moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I've been living in North Carolina for roughly 11 years.
When you were younger, did you play sports?
Yes, I am a huge soccer player. Actually played soccer from the time I was 4 years old all the way up until I was a senior in high school. And I was a I was a varsity captain for my high school soccer team for 3 years in a row, which was just unheard of for a sophomore, a junior, and senior 3 years consecutive to be a varsity captain.
Yeah, to be the captain, I mean, that's big responsibility. So right there. Did you play travel soccer?
I did not. I was always on the road with wrestling. My mom was constantly taking us all over the country.
All right. So now I've got to find out, what high school did you attend? How good was the soccer team overall?
Ooh. To be fair, I was injured a lot. I actually just had surgery from a high school soccer injury in 2021 because I blew out my knee completely. But I went to a pretty rough school in Fayetteville. It was Douglas Byrd High School.
And then for college, because you mentioned college, so you attended college?
I did attend college. I have my degree in culinary arts, so completely different from wrestling. I met with John Laurinaitis whenever I was 16 years old. And one of the pieces of advice he gave to me whenever I was 16 was go to college, get a degree, have a backup plan. So from there, I had never imagined going to college. All I wanted to do was wrestle. So I started out in accounting and business administration, and then moved from that because I got real sick and tired of staring at a textbook all day into the culinary arts world because it got me up out of a desk and into a kitchen to where I was challenged. I was constantly creating things. It was an amazing experience. So I graduated with my degree in culinary arts, and from there I ended up owning and operating my own Sonic drive-in for a couple years.
Oh man, this is awesome.
I've done
I
it
just
all.
love this. This is the part I love the most. See, I love the wrestling history and I love all the talent. But this is so now I'm thinking, like, when you're on the road, do you get much time to cook on the road? Are you going to a restaurant on the road then if you're wrestling, or are you actually bringing stuff and trying to cook if you can?
I cook as much as possible. I work full time. I go to the gym. I go to wrestling training. I travel on the weekends. But every single day, I'm constantly cooking from scratch. I don't do fast food or like drive-throughs or anything like that. I put work in the kitchen.
Okay, so what is Samantha Starr go-to dish?
Oh gosh. I'm my biggest weakness in life is definitely a sweet tooth. Um, if I ever make you banana pudding, just know that we are best friends and you're never gonna forget me. The banana pudding that I make is just out of this world.
I want to see Samantha Starr with her banana pudding going public, going to all the stores on Shark Tank, on ABC Shark Tank. We'll see Samantha Starr. She's going to be trying to get one of the investments for her banana pudding. That's what I want to
There
see.
you go.
So, Samantha, few more questions here. It's so interesting and all with the NWA. And there's another big event coming, I believe February 11th to Tampa. And I want you to talk about coming to Florida. Have you wrestled in Florida before? And what do you think about NWA coming to Tampa for this big event? Tyrus, the champion, and Kamille, who you mentioned, women's champion, and all the great talent will be there.
So February 11th, Tampa, Florida, NWA is coming. And we're bringing Nuff Said, the pay-per-view, which highlights NWA's heavyweight champion. And not only that, we're bringing the Brick House, the undefeated Kamille, NWA Women's World Champion, to Tampa, Florida. NWA hasn't been back in Tampa or back in Florida in so long. So not only for us to return, but to bring these larger-than-life champions, Florida's definitely in for a treat. I personally have never even wrestled in Florida, so this will be a first for me as well. But I'm also moving to the Sunshine State here in a couple months. So what better way to get my foot in the door than with the NWA?
Florida, the Sunshine State just got better. No, it's Samantha Starr will be one of our residents. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I got it. There are a few more things I want to ask. So just bear with me on this. I was reading about how your mom, Baby Doll, was in your corner for a match against the very talented Kylan King, who's also has Florida ties, a lot of Florida ties here. So we know about Kylan, and excellent talent as well as you. What can you tell me about that? Was that the first time mom was in your corner for a match?
No, my mom hasn't been in my corner a lot, but when it is, it's always a special moment. I typically enjoy working heel when I'm with my mom, just because she has a way of just pissing people off. I'll be honest, I love her to death, but she can get an entire room full of people just mad, just boiling mad to the point where they're chasing us out of the building. So when my mom's in my corner, it's always a momentous, special moment for me. Not many female wrestlers can say, hey, I've got my mother in the corner. They might have their father, but I am one of, if not the only, female third generation, because not only my mom wrestled, but her mom also wrestled. So 3 generations of female wrestlers specifically. Kylan King, she is a beast. I admire her so much. She hasn't been in it that long, and for her to make such tides around the world is incredible. So I knew whenever I had to face off against her, it was definitely going to be a challenge. But I had my mom in my corner. It was a really special moment for me.
Samantha, when that's occurring and you're getting into it, and you said it hasn't happened many times. Is it a little more, of course, it's a special moment and you're excited and all. Is it a little more nerve-wracking too, or no?
Yes and no. Being a generational wrestler, I always feel a lot of pressure on me, just because not only am I going out there and trying to prove that I can do it to myself, but I also have to understand that I withhold my family's history. Like people know about me before they know me. And that's a lot of pressure, because you can say, oh, that's Baby Doll's daughter, and not know a dang thing about me. Or, oh, Jake the Snake's niece is wrestling. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. I hope her promos are just as good as his. So it's a lot of pressure, whether they're in my corner or not. But I can just hope that I've never let them down.
I'm also curious, did you ever think of incorporating Baby Doll 2 or Jake the Snake Roberts, or the Snake, or Roberts, or even Sam Houston, any of that? Because you went with Samantha Starr, and I'm curious how you came up with that name. Was it more or less to try to be an individual and make your own mark? And I'm curious about the double R's as well.
So there's a couple reasons. So one, whenever my mom was pregnant with me, way back when, she had the idea to name me Samantha Starr. So it would be Samantha Starr Smith. But as she was playing with the name, she thought about calling Samantha Starr on a playground, and she was like, oh, that sounds like an exotic dancer. Don't want to name her that. Set her up for failure. So then she settled on my real name, which is Michaela Joy. So whenever she told me the story about what my name was going to be, and I knew that I wanted to be a wrestler, I didn't want to be one of the wrestlers that kind of piggybacked off of my family. I wanted to go out there and know that I put in the work, I put in the sweat, I put in the miles on the road to prove that I could do it. So I do incorporate my family into my wrestling. For example, my finisher is the DDT. It's the Starstruck DDT. My name was from my mom. And then Sam Houston, Samantha Starr. And then one of my moves that I do use is a bulldog, which was my father and my aunt's finisher. So they're in there. And then also I go by the perfect knockout, Samantha Starr. So it plays off of the perfect 10, but I can also knock you out.
Yes, that's so great. And see the thought process. I always say this. When a pro wrestler comes in, from everything to the name, to the ring gear, to the entrance music. And as we wrap this up, I did want to ask you about your entrance music. And is that something that you picked out? Is there a meaning behind the entrance music as well? Just something you like to be, and does it change for you?
My wrestling music has evolved throughout the years. I started out with some like poppy, oh, this will get people clapping, and it's definitely evolved based on who I am in the ring. It changes based on my mood, and it also changes depending on the area that I'm going to be wrestling in. If I'm wrestling like a one-off show in the middle of nowhere, I want something that the people are going to recognize and they're going to remember, or they have a memory with that song. So it definitely, the song plays into how I want the people to feel whenever I come through that curtain.
Do we already know what your music's going to be for Tuesday, January 31st for NWA Power Live? No Don Jardine alerts, but I'm just curious if you know yet what the music will be. You don't have to say it if you don't want to.
I guess you're going to have to watch and find out.
Yes, that's the way you do it. That's how you do it. All right, so I want to say this. Did I pick the right team today, or am I wrong with this?
Oh, gosh. To be fair, being from Texas, you have to respect the Cowboys. I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. Huge Tom Brady fan, huge Gronk fan. So I'm just throwing this out there. We're going to be in Tampa, Florida for NWA Wrestling on February 11th. So if Rob Gronkowski or Tom Brady sees this and you want to come watch some good wrestling, please show up. I would just lose my mind. I would absolutely lose my mind if they showed up. Especially Gronk. Gronk's actually a wrestling fan and he's best friends with a wrestler. So Gronk, what are you doing?
What is he doing? That's right. He's a former WWE 24/7 champion. He's been involved in pro wrestling. And yeah, what is he doing with the wrestler? Come on.
Come on, this is the NWA.
and that's awesome. I didn't even put the Tampa tie together. So I'm glad you did that, because there is so much not only tradition with Tampa and Championship Wrestling Florida back in the day, but even with the Buccaneers and with Gronk. So that's awesome. That is so cool and all. Hey, we know the Four Horsemen and Baby Doll managing Tully Blanchard and being a part of all that and being with Dusty and against Dusty. So much history there. I'm wondering if you ever thought in your mind about the Four Horsewomen, because Tessa Blanchard is incredible. Charlotte Flair is incredible. You have you making your mark. I don't know who the fourth would be, but I just wondered if you ever thought about a Four Horsewoman with Samantha Starr.
It's definitely crossed my mind a time or two. So make sure you give NWA, give WWE, whoever you need to, give them that idea, because we would make so much money. Between Tessa, Charlotte, myself, and whoever the fourth would be, Jesus, we would imagine us all as heels. Imagine us all as the bad guy. Because Tessa already has that reputation of being exactly, and Charlotte can piss some people off too. And then I'm, not too bad myself. I think we would absolutely make waves all over the world if we all.
I totally agree, because we had the Four Horsemen, and this would be something different. And Baby Doll could even be a part of it as well. And it would be so incredible. Oh my gosh. So, well, listen, I just want to thank you for taking the time. If you have social media for fans or anything else you want to close with, please do.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on Facebook at Samantha Starr, on Instagram at Perfect Knockout, Twitter at Perfect Knockout. Feel free to hit me up. Share your wrestling memories with me. I absolutely love hearing about wrestling memories, and if someone in my family made an impact in your life, that's one thing that we can definitely relate on, and I love to hear the stories about it.
Can you make a chocolate lava cake?
I can do anything in the kitchen.
That's it. I'm coming to Tampa. I'll be at the show in Tampa. I'm going to be there. Thank you so much, Samantha.
Thank you.